The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody, and welcome inside a Thursday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. As always, we are brought to you by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you, so you don't have to. And we're going to go into we're going to put the logo, I should say, up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, so you know where to go. If you are in the market for a new or used vehicle, it is Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown right there. No one will treat you better than them. I promise you that over there in Greenwood. So if you go over there and if you do use their services, make sure to tell them that Anthony sent you from Running Point on YSN. So today is going to be, we're going to have to pivot a little bit. We didn't have a lot of games get in yesterday. Rain was definitely a factor, and it didn't come before the games. It came during the game. So there were a lot of games that started and couldn't finish. A lot of suspended games going on right now last night that will have to be finished today before the next game starts. So today's schedule looks a little bit different, and obviously last night's schedule, we didn't get a lot of finals in, so instead of the scoreboard today, we're actually going to bring up the standings page. We're going to take some time to look at how the conferences sit right now. We're a couple of weeks left in the regular season of softball, one more week left in the regular season of baseball. So I think it's a good time to look at where we sit, where the standings are, and what's kind of how these conferences are shaking out. So that's what we're going to do first today. And then second half of the show, as always, we're going to feature a player profile on today's show. We go down to Austintown Fitch, and we hear from their catcher, Kylie Folkwine. It's a great interview. Me and Ty Bartell were both on the stream for it, and it's a great conversation with Kylie Folkwine. It's probably like her 7th or 8th player profile that we've done. I mean, she plays 3 different sports, and she's a standout in all 3 of them. So you got to get her every season. So no stranger to Running Point, no stranger to YSN, Kylie Folkwine. That interview will be played here on the show in a little bit. But first, let's go to the standings. Let's hop on the standings page over at ysnlive.com, which is a place that we don't usually get to on Running Point. It's one that definitely still exists, and we want to bring some light to it. The standings page is presented by R.L. Craig, and they are the wonderful reasons why we are able to bring you this even greater extension to your resources that you can use ysnlive.com for. Not only can you get live scores on the scoreboard, but you can also see how those scores are affecting the conference in the standings page. ysnlive.com/standings is where you can find it. It's presented by R.L. Craig. Let's start with the AAC. We'll look at the baseball and the softball. You look at Austintown Fitch leading the baseball right now with that overall record, putting them in top, even though they're tied with Fitch with a 3-1 record overall in the conference. Then Howland haven't played a huge league schedule yet. They're just 1-1, but they're sitting there in 4 with a 3-2 overall record. Boardman 1-2 and 2-8 overall, and then Warren Harding rounding out the pack in the AAC with a 0-3 record, 4-3 overall. When you look at this baseball standings, Fitch is one of those teams that everyone was trying to see what they would bring to the table. They're a very young team, and you never know with young teams. They could be really good, they could have some young moments. So I think they came into this season, and a lot of people are kind of on their toes. Like, what's Fitch baseball going to look like? But I'll tell you what, their pitching staff and their defense has carried them a lot this year. They've had offensive spurts, but I think the backbone of that team, just like Canfield, is their pitching. Howland definitely more of an offensive team, and that's why I'm kind of interested to see how they venture in the rest of their schedule. Just 1-1 on the season, so they have a lot of conference games to play. They're going to be a good match for a lot of these other teams, the AAC, that really rely on their pitching and defense more times than not. So I think the Tigers are still in it with just that one loss, but obviously not as many games played as Canfield and Fitch. Canfield with a tough start to the season, they've really come right back and not let it affect them. They had a tough trip on to Myrtle Beach. They came back and they've won conference games since. And, in all intents and purposes, they have a lot of momentum right now, and everyone knows what Canfield baseball is all about, what Gary Niddle kind of puts on the field. So no shocker there that Canfield's right there in the mix, but it's a 3-team race right now, as you can see. Howland, Canfield, Fitch, all with one loss. And, it's going to come down to the finish, but also I think when Howland finishes a couple of those games, how they fare in them and how they catch up to the rest of the league when they play these conference games that they've missed out on so far. Let's go over to the softball side of things. And it's really no shocker that Fitch is up top, and then, Canfield sitting there right next to him because Canfield beat them, Boardman, Warren Harding. It's really a cluster right now in the softball side of things in the AAC. So let's go and move from the AAC on to the Buckeye 8, which is next. Buckeye 8 Conference is one that features Beaver Local, and it looks like this on the baseball side of things. St. Clairsville undefeated right now with a 5-0 league record. Indian Creek 3-2. Beaver Local 1-4, Harrison Central 1-4. Overall records, St. Clairsville is still undefeated, 8-0. Indian Creek has a 6-2 overall record. Beaver Local 3-4, and Harrison Central sits at 1-4. On the softball side of things, Indian Creek in the top with the top record. Beaver Local sitting at second. Hold on, I hear a really weird noise that is kind of... You know what? I am actually gonna not trying to alarm everyone. It's just weird noise outside. I'm gonna go see it. I'm gonna actually roll Kylie Folkwine's interview, and we'll just go from there.
What's up, everybody? Ysn in with another edition of Player Profile, this time with the Falcon catcher, Kylie Folkwine, joining us today. Kylie, how are we doing?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. I guess first and foremost, what are you doing to try to stay warm and try to just keep yourself ready for games with all these cancellations and dealing with Mother Nature up here?
We just had lifting today, and then I'm going to go hit later, so just kind of stay in the groove so I could keep playing.
Kylie, one of the things I want to talk to you about in this season, obviously the first year as the Fitch catcher, you've been catching for a while. You're not new to the position, but new to the position here at Fitch. What's it been like to kind of build in that role here with this varsity team and not just work with Sid, but also lead the infield and try to be like the vocal leader that a catcher has to be on this team?
I'm very close with all my teammates, so I feel like they trust me enough to be the catcher and try to stand up for everybody and be a leader on the field. And that's really all it is, because everybody has their own position, own role, and we all just flow together, and none of us really need to be a leader above one another when we all just do whatever we need to.
I know the talent that you're surrounded with, both on your travel team and your high school team, is extraordinarily deep. You talk about that, though, and talk about catching Sydney Watts, too. Has there ever been another pitcher similar to Sid that you've caught, too, or is this a new experience for you that you've had to get used to?
My pitcher on my Dukes team, her name's Zoe Lord. She's very equivalent to Sydney, except her pitches go down and Sydney's go up. So that's like really the only difference. They both throw hard. They're they're both pretty good. So they're both the same.
So all you had to do is get used to that rise ball coming up
Yeah.
at you. When you think about things that you are able to do with this year with this Fitch team, obviously winning a state championship last year put a big target on this team's back. What has it been like going through this year, even early on, to see that everyone that you play, they want to beat you? You have that target. You're always going to be the one that everyone's gunning for, and you're never going to be the underdog, in the games this year. What's that been like so far?
We can definitely feel that everybody makes them our rivals. Every single game, we have to just step up and raise to our standard, and we just play as hard as we can every single game, knowing that everybody wants to beat us, try step up, and even score against our Sydney. It's even hitting against Sydney. It's a very big accomplishment. So we just try to stay calm and do what we do, and just keep going out there and trying to win games.
You're unique because we get to have, I think, an interview with you almost every single season. So I think this is number 3 for the entire school year. You talk about the other sports that you play though, and how they help lead into softball season. I know a lot of coaches advocate for playing other sports and how they can help. What have the other sports kind of helped you with going into your sophomore season of softball?
I feel like my endurance is always high from playing running and basketball, and then my arm strength and like being able to keep like my arm keep my arm like intact and like keep the strength in my arm from volleyball. So having like the same motion in those, it just like keeps me ready for softball. And I'm able to practice. Both my volleyball and basketball coaches are very understanding that softball is the sport I want to go to college for. So they let me practice, and they know when I have softball, they are very understanding of that I could miss it. And just having that accountability with me just makes everything a lot easier to go into softball.
We see a lot of athletes come through high school and they'll be specialized in one sport and they'll play multiple sports. But at some point, whether it be when they're freshmen or they're sophomore, you start to see them, maybe drop one or two and focus on the sport they want to go to college in. But you haven't done that. What is so important to you about staying busy and staying involved in the other sports that you get into? And why do you love being a multiple sport athlete so much?
Just being around like all the different teammates, and every time I play a sport, I always just am dedicated to that sport at that time. And I feel like if I'm dropping one, it just like I don't know, I feel like I just can't imagine myself not playing one of the sports. Like going to a game and watching and not playing in it, like that would make me really upset. So I feel like I'm just gonna keep playing 'cause I love all three of them, and it's really hard to choose that if I were to drop one, which one it would be.
Because you play so many sports and you have so many teammates both in high school and outside of high school too with other avenues, do you find yourself being able to work with groups maybe a little bit easier, being able to be more versatile and working with other personalities?
Yeah.
When you talk about that too, do you feel like that's going to help you attribute to being a leader too, as you're going to start evolving into that come next season?
Yeah, being able to be around a lot of people and having the same personality and learning other people's personality, I feel like that makes myself contribute to like knowing what people expect from me and what they think of me, so I could raise myself to be a leader from surrounding myself around them all year long. And that's just like a statement I have to fulfill to be a leader on every single team I'm on.
We're talking about different teammates you have and what that does for you, but you're also coached by a lot of different people, whether it be volleyball, basketball, travel, softball, obviously Coach Ward as well. What's it been like for you to be, exposed to different coaching styles and different philosophies and be coached by so many different people?
Every coach definitely has their own different way of coaching. Some are very like drill forward, some are very big on the mental part. But all the coaches, they always want what's best for you and always to try to keep you healthy. So all the coaches that I've had have always been very understanding of when you have an injury, or they're just always pushing me. Like all the coaches that I've had have been so helpful towards me and always believed in me. And so I feel like that's also another part of why I play all three sports, because every coach I've had, I just love them so much because there's great people and it's great to be around them.
You mentioned the dream of going to college to play softball too. I have a feeling you're going to be a hot commodity once you become eligible for that. What are some things you're looking for at the college level, both coaching wise too, and maybe location wise, that are going to be intriguing to you about playing at the next level?
I just want a coach that like feels like it just feels like home. Like feeling if I'm with them, I just can be myself around them, and like they're able to push me to my limits. Because I want a coach that's gonna push me hard and not just be easy on me and let me do whatever I want. Like I want them to challenge me, and I want people to be better than me on each team. So I have to keep working harder to get better. And for like the places so far from all the camps that I went to, my favorite is like definitely I want to go down south. I like the warm weather, and I feel like the competition is a lot like more challenging and yeah, I just like to be warm, so I definitely want to go down south.
You know, when you moved over to the big travel team in the Dukes that travels a lot, goes to national camps, national events. What'd that do for you as a softball player to be exposed to such amazing talent and so many teammates that are committing to these big D1 schools? What'd that do for you to be able to expand your horizons a little bit and expose yourself to even more softball talent?
Seeing all these amazing players definitely made me realize that I need to work a lot harder because everybody, most of them play one sport, and me playing two other sports, I definitely need to push myself a lot more to get to the same level as them. So if I were just to dedicate myself and seeing their talent and their worth ethic, I just need to keep grinding and keep trying to fulfill my dreams of playing and just being them and knowing them. They're every single softball girl is the same. They all just want to play college softball, especially at like that level. And it's just like kind of funny to be around them because we all just like have like the same thing of just playing softball with each other and just loving it.
I want to talk about your high school experience as well. I mean, you went from volleyball and basketball where you were kind of one of the hunters, right? You're hunting for conference championships too. You guys, I mean, good teams in both respects too, but this is a little bit different. This is a nationally ranked team. Does your mentality change from being, I guess, the hunters to the hunted now, the talk of the town, the one that everyone in the area is trying to take down? Does your mentality change from those sports to softball, or does it stay the same?
It definitely changed a little bit, but I always try to keep it to the same because I don't want to get like too overconfident or too like not as confident because anything could go wrong. So you just have to keep trying, and even if we aren't winning a game, people are still going to try to like talk about that. So you have to keep the same mentality and just look for like the next play, next game, and you just have to keep it like that for all three sports. Doesn't matter you won, you lost, just keep it the same.
You know, with all the success the softball team has had, obviously you're a big name in the sport. You know, everyone, no matter what game I'm going to, everyone's asking me what the Fitch score is. Everyone wants to know how you guys are doing. Everyone knows who Fitch is. They know what's up. What's it been like to be on a team that is like, you know, is the buzz around town, as Ty said in this last question? Is it weird to have people that like aren't even at your game to be wondering what the score is and be wondering about what you guys are doing?
I don't find it weird. I just kind of find it like exciting that like everybody like knows who Fitch is, and I feel like it's just like making our community bigger, and that everybody can hopefully be supporting Fitch if we just. It's nice to know that other people like care about us, and I feel like just like us winning and continuously winning, it's just gonna make more people curious to see what we're doing, and I feel like it will bring more fans to come watch us, and I feel like that's just probably better for our program to get more people to come watch us.
I asked Abby the same question, but I want to ask you because it's the same situation for you. You experienced your first loss in a softball uniform the other day, and it was actually your good friend and one of your good friends too that delivered a big time hit. When you talk about experiencing that, do you find value in that first loss in softball too? I mean, you guys bounced back right away. Was there value in that too? And what were the talks like with Leah after the game?
Actually, my mom and her parents and her went to dinner, and I did not go with them because I didn't really want to. But I love Leah. That was a great hit for her. I'm really happy that she deserves that. She needed that confidence boost, and I'm very proud of her for that. But losing that game, I feel like that definitely we needed a setback because we were just used to winning. Like we haven't like known. I haven't felt in high school what it has been like to lose with softball, but just having that setback is just gonna make us keep pushing farther. And one of the talks in the locker room were that Texas just beat Oklahoma, and Coach Ward just like kind of like compared that to us, and Oklahoma's gonna go win another national championship this year, and we can just compare that to that we should go to state, and we just need to keep pushing harder every single practice and game to just make it to where we want to be.
That's awesome. And Coach Ward's always comparing you guys to Oklahoma when he's talking to you. I was part of one of his talks after a scrimmage. What's it like to have Coach Ward always like trying to compare you guys, or I shouldn't even say compare, but trying to draw your knowledge from other colleges or other teams that you can see on the big stage and saying, this is how they do it. So let's try to mimic that and mirror the things that obviously big successful programs like Oklahoma are doing.
He always tries to encounter other colleges, and he tries to encourage us to watch games because you can learn a lot from just watching college softball, like watching their base runners, watching how the catchers move when the pitch is coming, watching their swings and how they attack, and just like even their mentality at the plate. Like watching college softball, they're very aggressive, and just like he wants us just to understand the game of softball better.
I think Fitch is one of those teams that is continuously trying to raise the standard, and I think they're doing it once again. Very successful program before, but now they're taking it to the next level. But it can't be just that coach is telling you. Coaches can only say so much. It's the players that set that standard. How are you yourself, as just a sophomore, trying to set that standard with Fitch too and continuously do it going into your upperclassmen years?
I know my role in the lineup. Batting 4, I know that my goal is to try to make contact somewhere on the ground or line out in the outfield, because usually we will have someone on base, and my goal is to hit them in or just advance them. And when I'm catching, I know that my goal is to try to get strikes called, try to throw runners out, and just be a leader on the field and in the dugout. Just like, even though I'm younger, I feel like I've earned respect to even upper and underclassmen that they can count on me and I can count on them, just to take like any criticism as well, or just cheer each other on. That's all we really need.
So Kylie, before we let you go, we got to hit you with some rapid fire questions to get to know you a little bit off the field. My first question is, if you could play at any other position, obviously you're a catcher now, so if you could transition to maybe a position that you haven't had the chance to play yet, what kind of position would you want to play?
I want to pitch.
We asked Abby this, and since that was your answer, I'm going to ask it too. With the trend on social media right now for softball is, lining up the whole team, having them all pitch, and then trying to guess who the pitcher is. If the non-pitchers did that, who do you think could sell it the most?
Well, it's kind of like cheating, but Kayliana, because she used to pitch. So
That was the answer from Abby. You have any big softball superstitions that you stick to?
I have to eat either Chick-fil-A or Subway before every game. My hair has to be in some sort of bubbles, and I have to have eye black on, and I have so many. I can go on forever. And I have to have jewelry on. Like it's a long list.
What's your softball ick, Kylie?
Oh. Either like plastic like face masks, or when like the uniform just doesn't like look right. Like you have to look right. If it doesn't look right, I don't like no.
No, it's not looking right. When obviously you have to bounce back from failure really quick. When you don't get the hit, or you're having a bat that's not exactly the way you wanted it to go. How long do you give yourself to shake it off? Because every player is a little bit different. They give themselves maybe the walk to the dugout, maybe they're next to bat. How long do you take to kind of feel that emotion of, dang, I really wanted to hit there, and then move on to the next thing you have to do?
After the next player goes into the box, or if I was the last out, I have to shake it off right away. That's really what I have to do. So I'll just go into the dugout, set my glove down, and then as soon as the next player gets into the box, I just start cheering for them. So hopefully they can hit the ball, because obviously I did not. So
That happens less often than it does, so that's always good, Kylie.
Who are some of the other good friends too outside of Fitch softball that you have in the softball world? We talked about Leah. Who are some other ones?
my cousin Brooke from Crestview. I can't think of any on the top of my head. Josie Milliken from West Branch.
Mm-hmm.
Kaylin Pleska, Jaylee Will, Kira Brogan. They're all like my old teammates. So there's like a bunch of them.
Yeah. I had to break the dam too.
Yeah.
It took one or two, and then it started.
Yeah. I think that's all.
Kylie, before we let you go, though, I do want to give you the opportunity to shout out the support system. I know you've been doing this a lot through almost every interview, but I want to give you the opportunity. Shout out your softball supporters and who's been there for you throughout this journey.
Thanks to my parents, my family, our school, our community, and all my coaches and my travel coaches. They've all supported me throughout everything.
I'm going to challenge you. Give someone a shout out that hasn't been shouted out yet in one of your interviews. Give someone out there, maybe that supports you, a friend, give someone a shout out.
Oh, okay. My best friend, Riley.
Boom. There you go. Shout out Riley out there.
Going to be the all-time assist leader at Austin Town too. So for sure. Kylie, thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Player Profile for you. This time the softball edition. Best of luck this season as we're going to be rooting for you all the way.
All right, thank you.
All right, so that was Kylie Folkwine, and that was played a lot earlier in the show than I thought it would. It was the weirdest thing. I'll tell you what. I'm sitting here. I'm talking about the standings. I have the standings page up, right? And I hear this like loud like clacking that's like ting 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 ting, and I'm like, what the heck is that? It sounded like it was happening right outside my door. So here's what happened. My dog, I guess he wanted to play with his bone or something, and he wanted to play with me, like throw his bone. He does that from time to time. But then he realized the door is shut, so he gives up, he drops the bone, and then goes off and, does whatever. Well, he dropped the bone like right next to, there's a register or a vent or whatever right outside my door. So he dropped it like right next to it. And I guess something was just making that bone just clack against the register repeatedly, like ding, 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 ding. And it was loud. And I was like, what the heck is that? It's definitely not a noise that you hear too often. It's not like he's leaving the bone there all the time. So it was one of those things where I was like, I better check what the heck that noise is, because it sounded like something could be like breaking or one of the animals could be getting into something. So I was like, well, might as well just play the interview I have in the can. Thank God that's not live, and I can just go take care of whatever I have to take care of. But it was just a bone on the vent clanging against the metal. But it was definitely something I was like, whoa, what the heck? So sorry if that alarmed anyone, my abrupt need to play a pre-record interview there, but we're all good. Everything is good. It was just a dog toy clacking against a metal register. Go figure. Welcome to live streaming, right? Anything can happen on a live web show. With that being said, after that Kylie Folkwine interview, what we're going to do, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back on Running Point, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun, it all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business. No job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
Now you can see every school, to the smallest school, to the intermediate schools, to the schools in the outlying areas. It gives you coverage that you could just never get to before. It's something that's great to experience, and it's opened up a whole new wave of sports viewership. The possibilities are endless here at YSN. Push the envelope every day. Try something new. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, let's try another angle, and we just keep moving forward. My name is Mike Ackelson, and my sports network is your sports network.
What can you do on over 5,000 acres? At Mill Creek Metro Parks, you can discover unique habitats and wildlife, create memorable family moments, experience history, heritage, and park programs, explore scenic landscapes, take time to relax and be well, connect with nature and each other. Come see what's new at Mill Creek Metro Parks. Plan your trip now at millcreekmetroparks.org.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means taking care of our local customers.
And it's just a great feeling to put them in a vehicle and get them all excited about a new vehicle.
At the end of the day, our goal is to be someone our customers can count on.
And every day I'll go the extra mile for the community so they can trust us.
To do anything that would convenience the customer or make them feel more at home.
Realizing, number one, that we're here for them and that we're not going to go away.
That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
All right, welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Just heard from them a couple of times in that commercial break. They go the extra mile for you. They do a lot of hard work. We thank them for their constant sponsorship and support of this show for sure. Couldn't do without them. Couldn't do without your viewership either, so we thank you for that. While I had the time, I want to remind you that if you want to see that interview with Kylie Folkwine that we played a few minutes ago in its entirety, if you missed a part of it or anything, you can go check it out on our website or on our YouTube page, YSN Live's YouTube. If you're over there and if you aren't subscribed yet and you feel like kind enough to subscribe, please hit that subscribe button on the YouTube page. It helps us with the algorithm of YouTube. YouTube's algorithm definitely favors those channels with a lot of subscribers. They also favor videos that get a lot of likes. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and then turn on notifications as well so you don't miss any of the video content that we put up on our YouTube page. We are updating that YouTube with video content almost daily, whether it be post-game interviews, player profiles, coaches' corners, game highlights, etc., etc. They all go up on our YouTube page. So you don't want to miss a minute of it. And if you hit that notification bell, you won't. It's that simple. Hey, while we're here, since we don't have recaps to go, did y'all see the Caitlin Clark first press conference and how much it turned cringy and creepy? And oh my gosh, I can't believe this reporter said this. It was very strange, and it got very strange very quick. So if you didn't see it, Caitlin Clark's doing her interview. Sorry, I got a little bit of a tickle there, but then all of a sudden a reporter gives her one of these because that's what she does to the crowd all the time. That's kind of her signature celebration, whatever. This is not that. That's not the huge issue, Okay, it's her signature. He does it to her. He asked a question about it. She says, "Yeah, I love doing it to my family and my friends in the crowd." He says, "I'm glad you're here." And then this is when it went from slightly like to over the line, like, okay, you can't do that if you're a reporter covering women's sports. He said, "If you do that with me, we'll be fine." If you do this to me, we'll be fine. No. And he came out and he apologized on Twitter, and it was one of those ones where he's like, "Oh, I realized but he was apologizing for the wrong thing. Like he was apologizing for doing this to her, and he was apologizing for saying that he's glad that she's here. That was not the part where you crossed the line, my dude. Where you crossed the line was when you said, if you do this to me, if you do this for me, for me, then we'll be okay." That is next level, just not okay creepiness, cringiness. And he's doing some he's like a legitimate reporter that covers a lot. So I don't know if it was like his first time covering women's basketball, because now it's getting a whole lot of hoopla in Indiana, and they just kind of put him in there because it was a big event, or if he's always acted this way towards the people that he interviews, and it was the first time that he got an interview with a woman. I don't know, but it was just like, what part of, like, where does your brain think that what I'm about to say is okay? It boggles my mind. It's like when you wouldn't even like, if a woman said that to a guy guys being interviewed, that'd be kind of weird too. It's one of those things that you just don't even. I feel like even if the guy said that to a guy, like, if you do that for me, well, that will be okay. It's almost like, one, why would a player ever need to be okay with one little reporter? But two, it's just like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You do this for me. It would be weird even if you said it to a dude, I feel like. But it's even like, it gets heightened when you're saying it to Caitlin Clark and a female basketball player. It was just, it was a class 101, how not to cover women's sports. And maybe it needed to happen because there's going to be a lot of people out there. And I talked about this last week. And I know I was saying give people grace. And that was just, remember I said just when they were talking about the X's and O's of women's basketball, right? Analyzing the game. Give them grace. Don't give this guy grace. He made a mistake. He needs to be put on blast for it. But there's going to be a lot of reporters and interviewers and content creators and yada yada, all that fun stuff, that are not used to covering women's sports, that now are going to, because of the way that it is blown up. And I think you see that just everywhere. ESPN, Fox Sports, even podcasts are having Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese on, and all that fun stuff. I think there has to be a massive learning curve on a lot of these reporters, how to cover women's sports. It's a little bit different. There's things you can't say, things you can't do, can't be cringy like this reporter. And I think maybe it had to happen right off the jump. Like, shocker, it happened in the very first press conference that Caitlin Clark has as a member of the Indiana Fever. But maybe there needed to be like a blinding realization, or right in your face, like, this is what not to do. So anyone that would have done that is never going to do that now, because this guy is getting like absolutely torn apart on Twitter right now, which I don't think is right. I'm a human. Like, he made a mistake. He needs to be reprimanded. I wouldn't go and say some of the things that I've seen being said on Twitter. I think that's kind of overkill. But whether it's right or wrong, whether you're in that camp or not, I think a lot of reporters are going to see that and be like, I don't want to touch that at all. Hopefully it doesn't scare them away from covering the sport too much, because if you're a professional and you're doing this for a living, like, you have to see that, and instead of being like, I'm scared, I don't want to even touch it, you have to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to take that note, and I'm going to cover it with knowing that in mind. And I feel, and it's sad that it even has to be a note at this point, but it is. We're in that world right now where a lot of people just don't know how to cover women's sports, and there are still a lot of outlets out there, won't name names, that don't cover it the right way at all, and they adhere to their own demographic when they're covering women's sports, and their articles show that, their headlines show that. When I see their headlines pop up on Twitter, and it's like, well, that's obviously writing a women's sports headline geared towards a college aged dude, right? And that's all I'm going to say. Like, if you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. But I don't want to put any media outlet on blast because, but there's a predominant media outlet that writes a lot of women's sports headlines that are the headline you can tell is aimed towards not the women athletes, not towards fans of the women's sports, but it's aimed towards, your typical 22-year-old dude. This is why you should watch women's sports right here. You know, if you know, you know. I'll just leave it there. We were talking about the standings page. We went through a couple of them, and I'm gonna pull it back up, and get myself off of that train of thought. But if you saw Caitlin Clark interview, once again, final thought on that. It is a absolute masterclass on what not to do when covering women's sports. I'll tell you that much. We went over the Buckeye 8. Let's go into what's next. The CVC. Woohoo! Yeah, I love having these new teams that we have in the CVC, being able to follow this conference for the last year or so. Orange in baseball sitting there 2-0, a good win a couple of nights ago as well, 2-3 overall, but 2-0 in the conference, which that's all that matters. Hawken 3-0 in the conference, 6-4 overall. So when those two teams end up playing each other, it'll be a fun matchup. Perry's 2-1, Beechwood 1-1. We have West Geauga 0-3. And Chagrin Falls 0-3. On the softball side of things, Orange just getting started in the conference along with West Geauga. 1-0 there. Beechwood hasn't played a conference game, neither of those other three behind him. And then Hawken 0-2 in the conference. So we go from there to the CVC Lake Division. And this is where we find most of our Ashtabula County teams. Madison leading in baseball, followed by Geneva, Jefferson, Edgewood, Lakeside, and Conneaut on the softball side of things. Conneaut leads that side. Jefferson behind them, followed by Perry, Edgewood, Madison, Geneva, and Lakeside in the bottom of the conference. And now we go to the CVC Valley, where we find our friends over in Grand Valley, who are in the bottom of the baseball side of things. Kirtland leads, followed by Berkshire, Cardinal, Wycliffe, Crestwood there. And then the surprising thing in softball, Crestwood, who was a softball powerhouse for a lot of the mid-20 aughts, 2013 through 2019 especially. Crestwood softball was just such a dominant program. And right now they're struggling. 0-2, they haven't gotten a win yet. They're sitting at the bottom of that conference. That is surprising to see that Crestwood is struggling this year in softball. The EBC, West Branch and Alliance doing battle. Obviously, Alliance just got that win last night, Tuesday night over the Warriors. So that one has not been quite updated yet. Salem there, Marlington, Carrollton, and Minerva, but that was a big win for Alliance, as you can see, as it tied up the EBC at the top. Marlington sits at the top of the other side on softball. You have a bunch of people clustered there with West Branch, Carrollton, and Salem. West Branch just beat Salem on Tuesday. Minerva and Alliance at the bottom of that one. The EOAC, Columbiana United Southern, Lisbon, Wellsville, Latonia, and East Palestine on the baseball side. Columbiana really has been owning that conference for a long time. Same thing on softball. I mean, I know Columbiana is technically down there, but they actually took a long time to get an EOAC game in. This week was the first time they were able to play inside the EOAC. So they're going to be in that discussion, but by the end of the season for sure. United leads it with a 2-0 record. Wellsville also won their first two EOAC games. Southern and Columbiana, they played on Monday, and Columbiana got the win. They are leading suspended game 5-1 right now in the third. So they're looking to sweep the Indians in their first EOAC series of the year. Lisbon down there, and then East Palestine and Latonia round out those standings. We go to the MVAC Gray Tier. Crestview leads on the baseball side. Garfield, LeBray, Brookfield, Newton Falls, Camel, Champion, Liberty, And then on the other side, Champion, who has been the class of the MVAC, great here in softball. Of course, they lead Garfield, Liberty, Crestview, LeBray. LeBray just got 2 wins over Liberty, who came into this week undefeated in the conference. So those were big wins for the Vikings. We go to the Scarlet tier. We know we just had a big matchup between Western Reserve and McDonald. Those two split this year in the regular season. Middle Ridge leads the baseball side. Springfield, McDonald, Jackson, Milton, Waterloo, Western Reserve, Lowville, Sebring there. And then Middle Ridge third, Waterloo fourth, Lowville, Sebring, Jackson, Milton, and Springfield in the MVAC Scarlet tier. We move on to the NAC Conference. Maplewood, Pymatuning Valley, Matthews, Fairport, Harding, Badger on baseball side. Maplewood, Pie Valley, Matthews, Badger, and Fairport, Harding in the other side. Pymatuning Valley, obviously, our YSN school, along with Badger, in there with a couple of non-YSN schools. We go to the NAC, which is the Stripes division. St. John leads in the baseball side behind, well, I should say in front of Bristol, Lordstown, Chalker, and Wyndham. Chalker is a really good softball program. I know that's kind of surprising to some people that don't know, but Chalker actually has very good softball. They're in the front of that. St. John next, then Wyndham, then Bristol, then Bloomfield, then Lordstown. Go to the NE8 and South Range with that series over Hubbard. 2 wins there to give Hubbard their first 2 losses. And then Poland also lost this week on the softball side of things to Lakeview. So this is shaking up a little bit where South Range and Lakeview are, on a crash course to knock each other up. And that's going to be the last series of the regular season, actually, South Range and Lakeview. On the baseball side, Poland, South Range, Hubbard, but obviously Hubbard just got those 2 victories over South Range to get them, and that'll actually put them ahead of the Raiders. Struthers, Lakeview, Girard, and Niles there. PTC, Lake Catholic, Warren, JFK, Mogador, Rootstown, Southeast, and Aquinas. And on the softball side, Aquinas down there at the bottom followed by Lake Center, Rootstown, Mogador, JFK, and then Southeast at the top. Steel Valley, Mooney, East, Cheney, Ursuline, and then Ursuline, Mooney, East, Cheney on the softball side. Last but not least, of course, we go to our independents, and here's what the independents records look like. Hoban, obviously, none of these have conference records. Hoban baseball 8-2, Mohawk 7-1, Louisville 5-3, East Liverpool 6-5, Beaver 4-7, and Heartland Christian 2-5 on the softball side of things. Louisville still undefeated, 2 big wins this week. They're 8-0. Mohawk, Hoban, Beaver, and East Liverpool round out the independents on the softball side of things. So that is the standings on ysnlive.com. That's how they look in baseball and softball. And now, without further ado, let's look at actually, I can just leave that up. We'll go to the scoreboard, and instead of last night's games, we'll look at tonight's games and see what game is going on. The scoreboard presented by Burnett Pool, Spas, and Hot Tubs. And obviously, last night, almost no finals coming in. I know there were a couple that got done. Lakeview got the sweep over Niles in a doubleheader. Fitch got the win over Warren Harding. A couple of games got in last night, but most games got suspended. Let's go into today and see what games are going on. On the baseball side of things, Austintown Fitch travels to Columbiana. Garrettsville Garfield goes to Struthers. Lakeview goes to Boardman. Edgewood to Ashtabula St. John. Jefferson travels to Pymatuning Valley. Orange takes on Willoughby South tonight. We have Middle Ridge hosting Springfield. Cardinal going to Lakeside. Lowville hosting Jackson Milton. Hubbard will be hosting Heartland Christian, Brookfield, and Champion. Then we have Perry and Conneaut, South Range at Girard, and Southeast at Waterloo. On the softball side of things, Fitch travels to Louisville. Champion has to make up a league game, so that game has been switched. Champion going to be playing at Garfield tonight instead of against McDonald. That was just updated a couple of hours ago. United will be going to Crestview, Edgewood goes to Jefferson. Can't get this to scroll. There we go. Fairport Harding goes to Grand Valley. Brookfield goes to Badger. We have Camel going to Mooney. East Palestine, will be traveling to Beaver Local for Game 2 of that series. Geneva at Conneaut. Liberty at Girard isn't happening because Girard has to make up a game at Poland. Hubbard will go to LeBray. Massillon Jackson will be traveling to Boardman. Pymatuning Valley will be hosting Lakeside. Lisbon at Springfield, that's not happening. Springfield has to play Lowville in a matchup. That's what I was saying. Some of these schedules have been changed on the fly to make up league games, of course. Struthers and JFK. Hoban will be hosting Akron, Manchester tonight. And then Lakeview and Ursuline doing some battle as well. So that's what the schedule looks like tonight. ysnlive.com/live is where you can find all the games and the links for those games and those live games, I should say, for free on ysnlive.com. Make sure to check that out. Thank you so much for tuning in to Running Point today. Brought to you, as always, by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Want to thank Kylie Folkwine for giving us her time and doing that interview. And then we also want to thank you guys for viewing and checking in on the show. We're back tomorrow to close out the week on a Friday episode of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. So we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great evening.